You guys, you'll never guess what I got in the mail today from eBay. It's an actual photograph of a Predicta showroom.
Today from the world of tomorrow.
I started this channel with the primary concern of documenting what I've learned over the last year collecting Philco Predicta. Philco Predicta was a TV series that they manufactured in the 1958 and 1959 years and labeled them in the 1959 and 1960 model years. So 58 was 59, 59 was 60, kind of like a car. They separated their chassis design with an L series. Now, I say that if you're a collector or if you do a little bit more digging, you'll see what I mean. In 1959, they had the 9L series chassis. In 1960, they had the 10L series chassis. Philco was both series string sets and transformer-powered sets. The oddballs are my specialty. The oddball Predictas were primarily transformer sets. I haven't found one yet that's been a series string set. The main difference between an oddball set and a regular Predicta set is going to be that most of the Predictas that are really sought after are going to have exposed CRTs like this barber pole right here. As to where the oddballs like this Philco Predicta 1960 Riviera or full dress model had the CRT actually in like a console and it had a swivel. They're actually a lot harder to find as well too, just because I feel like because they didn't have the exposed CRT, they probably made it to the dump a lot quicker. So the biggest difference on this model year versus other actual full dress models is in 1960, I believe they only made this full dress model, the Rivera, and it doesn't have a pop-out channel selector like the actual full dress in 58 did. Now granted, I'm going to show you the actual full dress in a later episode. I want to devote more time to that as well. But for now, we're going to kind of give the star of the show its due. I bought this from a collector. His name was Larry Whitlock in Dallas, Texas. Larry is also one of my technical advisors for the show. Larry's been restoring Predictas since he was in high school. So as far as longevity is concerned, there's no one that's been in the game longer that I'm aware of that does business today. So I got this from Larry in his collection with a couple other really choice pieces. It was already restored, so Larry did all the work internally. The CRT is good as well, which is one of the biggest battles to find for these TVs. The Rivera, the biggest difference between the other full dress models, aside from the channel pop selector being missing, is that the speaker grill is an actual cloth speaker grill with kind of a stylized wooden framing in between. It does have the swivel, like I mentioned before, which makes it really neat. In a moment here, I'll get the camera in my hands and I'll show you guys a couple other really close-up differences, including the finished back, which is what makes a full dress a full dress. The kind of cool thing they did with this model was that instead of having the pop-up channel selector, they gave you a channel window. And it is an illuminated channel window. Like any Philco CRT in the Predicta era, your best bet to see it is with the lights off. So I'm going to kill the lights and let you kind of take a look at it like that. So as you can kind of see the screen a lot better, as well as you can kind of see the illumination in the window. That's the channel selector window, so it gives you the current channel that you're on. This series does use a 10L series chassis, a 10L41, so it is in line with the Continentals and the Decorator TVs they made in the 1960 model year. The one thing I really love about this set is just that it's the only one I've ever come across like it. I've only ever seen this set, and a big reason that I started documenting and wanted to start documenting is because they really only ever document the exposed CRT ones. No one's ever done a video series on these. So I really want to preserve what I found in these. In my opinion, they're prettier. But that's a very highly contested topic, and we could go on for hours, so please feel free to sound off in the comments. But at any rate, this is the Philco Full Dress Rivera 1960. And let me grab the camera, turn the lights on, and give you guys a little bit of a closer look. So as we get a closer look to the set, the first thing I'm going to draw notice to is the back. It's a full finished, full dress back as they called it. Something that I see with some of the sets, not all of them, is a lot of them have this missing or cracked. This one is complete and in relatively good shape. Another thing I noticed that's different between the 60 full dress Rivera and the 59 full dress series is that the 59 series had holes at the top and holes at the bottom. This one has two sets of holes at the top. Heat rises, so I guess that stands to reason. You've got your standard Predicta control pots up here. And then normally on the other full dress models, you'll see in a later video that the channels are actually switched to the side and they pop up. This one's got more of a safari looking channel selector. And then you've got your contrast and your power toggle as well as your volume. So this has 3 speakers in the bottom, as to where the full dress as well had 3 speakers. So it still has the same 3 speaker setup. As well as you can see down right here, this is the channel indicator window. I use my blonder tongue to broadcast on channel 5, which is why it's on channel 5, which is also why I'm shamelessly plugging the series. But yeah, so and then you can see the swivels down below. I got it pretty well cleaned up, and then that's that really neat speaker grill that is iconic and individual to the Rivera. So this is the Philco Rivera. The Philco Predicta Rivera. It's a beautiful set. It's the first one that I got when I was collecting oddball Predictas that was restored. And it's in a tie for my favorite with the one sitting next to it that, again, will be in a later episode. So for now, let's just take a moment and enjoy the Philco Predicta Rivera. Alright guys, so for the first build on my channel, we are taking a look at a 1959 Philco Predicta Cambridge model, or is more popularly known as the corner set. This is another one of those beautiful oddballs that you're going to hear me rave about primarily on this channel, as I feel they are grossly under-reviewed, underrated, and under-publicized. I know they're not quite as hoity-toity as the exposed CRT equivalent of the Philco Predicta brand, but for me, they hold a really dear, special place in my heart. I've already got this one tore down. The chassis and the tuner is out. I'm going to start by doing a CRT test with my B&K, and then I'll show you guys what I've been working on as far as the main deflection board. So initially, it's taken a little while to come up, but it was initially below the B. And as you can see, if I focus on the meter, you'll see that it's going to slowly keep creeping up. That's the weird thing about these Philco Predicta tubes, is that especially a stock 21 EAP4, which if you couldn't tell by that little Philco sticker, that's what that says, they're kind of a pain in the ass. The quality on them was a big reason why Philco had the issues they did with the Predicta series. So of course you have issues even getting one that, I mean, I brought this setup on the Variac when I brought it home, and I had a picture on the tube, so I know I'm going to get something. It's just a matter of how strong the contrast and how strong the picture lock will be. It's really interesting just because it seems like these tubes in particular, even if you get a really good testing one, the quality is still kind of subpar. And I'm sure that's probably a big reason why Philco had the warranty returns and returns that they reportedly had at the time. But at any rate, it's still coming up, so that's a sign. I mean, we're still moving in the right direction. I wonder what everyone's opinion is on a B&K Model 465 CRT tester. I've personally had pretty good luck with mine, but I have noticed, especially with like Philco tubes, it can be kind of hit or miss. I've been told that a Sencor is the best for overall tube readings, and I've also been told that a Beltron is the best for tube rejuvenation. I'm sure that just based off of the fact that it kind of came up, this tube is probably a client or a candidate, so to speak, for tube rejuvenation, but I'm a little apprehensive on using this model just because I haven't heard the best with B&K as opposed to a Beltron. I am looking for a Beltron. I'm always looking on eBay. My cheap ass just doesn't want to spend over 50, 60 bucks on one, including shipping. I think there's one on there now for like 120. I've just been kind of holding out, but yeah, so I mean, we're going to wait and see what happens with this CRT, but this is kind of par for the course as far as my experience has been with Philco Predicta 21-inch tubes. If it was a 21 FDP4, it would be a lot quicker to react, and it would be more than likely fine because that was the most sought after equivalent back then and even now. Most Philco Predictas that you see that people still have, especially these oddballs, because the thing about the ones with like the exposed CRT, they're really sought after even just for like design and interior decorating pieces. People held on to them even if they were fried. As to where with these, because they were kind of like consoles, I mean, they kind of just got tossed if they weren't adequately serviced or dearly loved. Most oddballs that I've come across, I've actually gotten lucky enough to have a 21 FDP4 in. This is one of the ones that I didn't. But as you can see by the finish and everything of it, I mean, it clearly was well taken care of. So I'm kind of surprised that I've even had the issues that I have with it. But it's still coming up, so we're going to stay positive. And we'll see what's going on with it here once we give it a little bit longer to get the heater going. So stay tuned. So this is the result after about 45 minutes of it cooking on the CRT tester. The needle is still experiencing gain, but it's much more incremental than when I initially put it on there. At this point, this is kind of par for the course on these 21EAP4 Philco CRTs. More so as well, just with the reported quality issues, and I mean, I'll do a video on different defects I've noticed on uniformly on every 21-inch CRT from Philco. This is kind of where we're at. I'm going to go ahead and conclude that this one is probably usable but pretty weak, which again is par for the course on these things. So this is the deflection board that I've already recapped and put new resistors in. I've pretty much done all the heavy lifting, including new ceramic and gold tube sockets. I'm just waiting on custom K networks from the Predicta master himself, Dan Jones in Detroit, Michigan. He's also making me a new diode setup. I won't be replacing control pots or any type of like adjustment coils, just because they're pretty proprietary and hard to come by. I also didn't replace any of the ceramic discs, just because I've been told by even the master himself that these aren't necessarily as big of a deal as like the mica and the paper and the wax and I mean, even the resistors, a lot of the guys do. I just did all of them because a theme with these boards is they're very hard to get out. So when you get them out, you want to service as much as you can. This is kind of the rat's nest of lug wires that I have labeled that I have to deal with when I put the board back in, just in that point, which will also bring me to the main chassis. I've got the video soundboard here, and then I've also got the IF board here. The tuner is back over there. They all will be gone through, at least with new resistors and new caps and new networks. But especially this chassis, which for the oddballs, it was a kind of a uniform common chassis of the 9L60 series, the 9L60. They all really have, like, it's really tight to work on, even more so than normal. On the other side, there's like a wiring channel that has a network in it that's going to be an absolute nightmare to replace. But overall, even the flyback on this looks okay. I'm going to give it a fresh coat of Corona dope. So yeah, that's kind of where we're working right now. A lot of these guys, they don't replace the resistors or the K networks. The jury's still out if it's completely necessary. My big argument is that because the board is such a pain in the ass to pull out of the chassis, you might as well. Another thing I would say is that the service manuals for this chassis are absolutely essential. I got a good PDF from a Riders, I think it was issue 26 or volume 26, that had the 9L60 series service notes in them, which can be, since it's an oddball chassis, it is kind of harder to find than the more mass-produced and mass-kept exposed CRT equivalents of the 17 and 21-inch variety. But with this, it kind of lays all the lugs out for you and gives you a labeling to go off of, and then also gives you a map of the board, which for me, being somewhat of a layman, still definitely made the difference and made it a lot easier. So, but this is kind of the work in progress. Dan Jones is making me new networks. The K networks, from my understanding, were just like a way to kind of make it easier for the printed circuits and for the serviceability to package, to grossly package several ceramic capacitors and different things in them. Dan makes a discrete printed circuit board option. They're great quality. Dan is in my opinion, one of the authorities on restoring these things. So I'm very thankful that I'm able to work with him on this project. So yeah, this is the printed deflection board. And this is the chassis. And I apologize now, my workspace is pretty crude. It's in my bedroom, but I can't get enough of the look of this board. Cleaned it all really thoroughly with Q-tips and alcohol before I serviced the parts, and then as I serviced the parts, I cleaned underneath of them. So it looks like a new board as much as it can. You can see where the heat on the board is centralized. All right here. So yeah, that is the status update number 1 on the Predicta Cambridge restore. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm always reading the other YouTuber television collector channels, and one of the most common comments I see is, what else do you have? Do you have anything for sale? Can I buy that? Can I buy this? Well, look no further. Unlike the other channels, I'm going to end every one of my videos giving you an opportunity to buy a piece of my collection. Today, for your viewing pleasure, I have a 1400 series Philco tabletop model. It does also have a period correct stand that I got from another local collector. And I do have the original sales brochure for it as well. As you can see, it's very, very old. I believe it's either I think it's a 49 model, maybe a 50 model, maybe a 1950 model. But it came out of the Grove City Hotel in Pittsburgh, PA. The guy that I bought it off of actually cleaned that place out and gutted it. The CRT test, brand new. It's not really in my scope that I'm trying to refine my collection. So my loss is your gain. I paid $80 for it. That's all I want to get. So, for $80, you can own a piece of history. I will accept PayPal, and you can ship it, or I will bring it to delivery to ETF Con pending PayPal for holding. So, bye now.